Hello, welcome everybody to another episode of Casual Creeps with Gorehead and the
Ooh,
Weena.
so
Today we're talking about the third episode of them, which covers, I think it's just day 4.
yes,
The entire
yeah,
episode is just day 4. Yeah.
yeah. It's each episode since the first one has just been one day
Okay.
because the previous one was
Cool.
just day 3.
Right, yeah, because the first episode covered day 1 and day 2, which I guess is kind
Mhm.
of necessary. Not much exciting
Yeah,
stuff happens during the moving process.
it's the happiest
You
point
know?
in the entire
I
show
know.
before
And
they arrive.
I wonder if they'll do this every single episode because this one again started with a flashback, um,
Yes.
where you see it ends up being Lucky's dream. Um, of it's sort of showing a little bit more of what happened in the South,
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
we're assuming that Chester has been taken by the creepy white lady, and we are now introduced to a creepy white man.
Yeah, yeah. Oh boy, this
Ooh,
is
another
the
creepy
plot
person.
thickens in a terrible, disgusting way.
Yeah, so we still don't really know what happens, but we just see I think it was the man picking up Chester out of the crib. Um and
Do
then
you remember the
it just
word? They say a very specific line
what
in
did
the
they say?
flashback. They say the woman says cat in a bag.
Ah,
Yeah, cat in a bag.
didn't didn't catch that.
So
Well,
yeah, just remember that.
yikes. Yeah, I mean I feel like throughout watching this my TV was glitching out a little bit, so I think I missed a
Okay.
few things here and there.
Just sparks
Yeah.
shooting out of the side of it.
And
It's
the
fine.
dog I was dog sitting was getting annoyed that I wasn't paying attention to him, so he would stand in front of the TV. Like, come on, I'm doing important research.
Yes,
Stop it.
this is very important stuff
Super important.
for our
So
singular amount of fans. We must get this out of here. We must report.
they're relying on us, okay? We
Yeah,
need to report
Jesus.
on this.
Just a
Yeah.
dumb dog. You'll get it. Important
So it
stuff.
starts out with that flashback, and then we
Mhm.
cut back to reality, and Lucky is getting out of bed, and I noticed the abundance of Dutch angles during this sequence where she's getting out of bed and the camera is just like tilting and then tilting the other way, and you feel that sense of unease as
Yes,
she's
off
like
kilter.
clearly something's not right with her
She doesn't wake
anymore.
up looking
Things
like she had a peaceful night. She looks like she's pretty
no.
on edge.
Yeah. And
She has a pretty intense stare. That actress is really good at looking, just staring intensely.
I know. And all right, and I remember this. She's out of bed and then she goes outside. Um
Yes.
I'm
Bastard.
pretty sure this is the next thing that happens, and you see her like crisp white linens like hanging out
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
clothesline, and then you just hear like a pissing sound, and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see
Some
like
little
the
bastard.
stain of piss is growing on her white sheet, and it's some little kid just taking a piss
Yeah,
on her sheet.
literally and figuratively.
Yeah. And the scene really frustrated me because she's just basically ran at the kid to get him to go away, and the kid picks up a stick and is like threatening her with this stick, and she just grabs the stick out of his hand, like, "What are you doing?" And
Yeah,
then
like I am a
the
grown woman.
kid,
You're a tiny child. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you.
freaks out, and she chases him with the
Oh, I
stick.
know. It's like great. And like you totally want her like do that,
Oh,
but then you also know just like how the
how bad it's
stupid
gonna look.
yeah, how
Yeah,
they're just going to use it against her. And it's like, "Oh no, it's like
yeah.
you can't even react the way that anyone else probably would react if they found a kid pissing on their
Like,
clothes."
you can't win. I feel like if you're in any other neighborhood, um, it would people would not react that badly. It's just like, I mean, it
Well,
doesn't look great, to be honest, when it like a grown
yeah.
woman chasing a
Just
kid with a stick down the street.
yeah, yeah, it's like
But
maybe yeah, it's like I could understand how that wouldn't look great, but also it's like they've already done so much shit to her and her
oh,
family
100%.
that it's totally I feel like, "Oh man, I wish you just beat the shit out of that little kid." But you know, it's like, "Oh,
And
it's
the
not going to
way
be good for you."
the way that the housewives are reacting too are making it seem like she's threatening their kid with like a gun or a knife because like they're you just see like it intercutting with the faces of the housewives going like, oh my
Yeah,
god,
it's like
you
this
know,
horrifying moment, and then yeah, they're just,
and then
oh my
she just
god.
drops the stick and just like realizes how bad this looks and she just power walks back to her house and with just this intense moment of these housewives just staring her down as she's walking down this
Yeah.
road back to
And it's
her
just like,
house.
oh, it's just so sad. And then it's like this poor woman. It's like, okay, but then she gets like she goes back in the house, and I think that's when she phones up like her husband's cousin, and they start chatting on the
Yes,
phone, and she decides to like go out and see them, and that's like the probably the happiest moment, one of the happiest moments of the
I
show
know.
when
She
she
gets
gets
off the
out.
bus, and it's just like you see everybody is saying hello to everybody. Everyone is like chatting with each other, and it's like yeah, it's a neighborhood of all colored people, and it just seems so much nicer.
They're very, yeah.
Seems so
Well. It's just
friendly.
you just don't have. She doesn't have to worry about some psycho block committee coming over to her
Exactly.
house and like
You
blasting
just
radios, and
you
it's the
feel the
one moment where
relief.
yeah she can be herself. Like you can tell that she has just like this
Exactly. She can
ex
yeah.
exhale
It's
for the first
yeah, that's the
time.
right word. She can exhale, she can walk around the street without fear of judgment or,
Hmm.
you know, fear of having to
Yeah.
put on a face. She can just be herself and she knows she's got family and friends that live out there, so it's like, okay, why why didn't you move to this neighborhood?
Yeah, I know.
Why'd
It's
you
like
go
they're
to
like you should have.
Compton?
I know. Yeah, like you should have just gone
Oh,
there. I
yeah.
think it's West Compton that she goes to, just based off the conversation that she
Okay.
has later in it. But yeah, it's just she goes and sees her husband's cousin, and they have like a big party, and they have like a bunch of family there, and everyone's so happy,
Yeah.
and they're just yeah, they'd have like actually has like a genuinely good time with like her like extended family, and she has like she stays for dinner, and it's all wonderful, and but then they keep the one cousin starts mentioning her son Chester and talking about
Yeah.
him, and like what she'll like cut his hair in the future, and she just like says nothing, and you can just see all of a sudden she just kind of changes and gets like
Yeah. It's like she
really
gets pale. She's just
yeah,
kind of like,
yeah.
shit. It's like, okay, so clearly nobody knows about her past. Nobody knows about what
Yeah.
happened to Chester. Like she hasn't told anybody. And she just kind of
Hmm.
like forgot about it and moved on. It's almost like you get the impression
Well,
that
she
she
wanted
can't
to
talk
forget
about
about
it.
it.
That's what I mean. Like she can't talk about it. She's trying to move past it without having to deal with it. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
something happened. And not only that, but you also learn about the history of the house that she moved into because one of the
Hmm.
cousins brings up and was
Oh
like,
yes.
wasn't there a black family that lived there before? It's like I heard that the wife skinned the children alive and the husband was murdered, and it was like,
Yeah.
what? And it was just kind of brushed off like the one girl, the cousin, I think, or I don't know, some one of her family
Yeah.
members is just
Yeah.
like,
It tries to
stop
like
talking
shut it
about
up.
it,
Yeah. Yeah.
don't bring that
Well.
up, like
Yeah.
why are you saying
One of them wishes him her luck, good luck to like if she's
yeah,
living in East Compton, and yeah, that's when they bring up the story, and yeah, well, because it kind of sounds slightly unbelievable because he says
it
like,
does.
oh, she mummified their heads and turned them into like
Yeah,
tiny
that's
little
right.
heads,
Shrunk their heads.
shrunk
Yeah.
their heads.
Uh,
Yeah, it's like that's what happens. So like if white people push us too hard, and it's like I don't think that would happen. I don't think people
I
would
don't think
mummify their
that's the
children's
point of the
heads.
story. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
at
It's
the
like,
same time, like there has been indications, kind of, I guess, throughout the episode so far that something did happen at that place, and there's some sort of
yeah.
reason to not not want to be there.
Like it's kind of haunted. There's some weird shit going on in there.
Well, and that
Yeah.
leads into weird haunted shit. Leads into Lucky's next scene after she gets all this wonderful news and freaks out, and she leaves the party, and
Oh, I
she's
should
waiting at.
say before we get there,
Oh,
she leaves the party because she's triggered by there's someone there has a baby and it looks a lot like Chester.
oh, yeah,
And
that's
so
right.
And then that triggers some of the memories of Chester, and she's like, "I have to go, I've gotta go," and she doesn't explain, she just, like, powers herself out powers herself out, power walks out.
I'm
She
going to
just
power myself out of this room now.
she books it out
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
party, doesn't say anything, and you can tell there's some, like, she clearly has some shit she hasn't dealt with in the past. She
Yeah,
gets
yeah,
on the
she's
bus.
got the camera also just goes like super like wonky, like kind of like when
Yeah,
characters are on drugs, like she's just like the room is wobbled and blurry and
yeah,
she's not doing great. She's having a
not
bad
doing
time.
well. So
It's
that happens, and then, yeah, then she catches the bus back to her home.
yes, yes, back to her home where she just is sitting there in the pouring rain and she gets on the bus and then it's she falls asleep and I don't think she dreams of anything. I think she just falls asleep and then kind of wakes
Yeah. Well, it
up.
looks like it's a dream of, like,
Yeah,
stuff
oh
that's
yeah,
going on.
yeah, yeah. Because she wakes up and there was like a bunch of people on the bus originally, and then she wakes up and she's the only person on the bus, and there's no driver, and she sees this very tall, creepy man just sitting in front of her, and like wearing old, I don't know, like 1800s clothing, like kind of cowboy ish.
Yeah.
And yeah, he gets up and looks at her, and he has like this super messed up face. It looks like it's kind of like burned,
Yeah, it looks
possibly.
burned
And
and
he's got like wraps
weird.
on his hands, but he's like this super tall, skinny dude wearing like all black and has this black rimmed hat. And I don't know if he starts. I don't think he says anything to her, but he just kind of maybe starts like mumbling or something, and he like throws her all around the bus essentially with his psychic ghost powers.
Yeah, and
Essentially, he
then
uses his psychic ghost powers to throw her around the bus. Like
yeah,
that.
I wrote that he looks like a creepy pastor.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Kind of
Definitely. Yeah, kind of
yeah,
very.
it was very strange, and, there's, like, also these hands that are trying to pull her down,
Oh, I didn't
that
notice
come up.
that.
Yeah, so she falls down, and you see, like, these white hands, like, gripping her and pulling her down, and then it kinda
Oh, okay.
cuts to what it looks like in reality, and you just see her
Yeah,
with
her.
nothing around her,
Yeah.
clearly being pulled down by something.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
okay. That would make a lot more sense for the later scene then, because I was wondering why she kept talking about hands being pulled on her, and that makes a lot more sense.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
she has unfortunately a terrible incident with a spooky ghost, and
and
yeah,
something I also noticed when she wakes up on the bus alone, like, you can see her reflection, and her reflection is moving separately from her. So
okay,
it's
okay,
like they
yeah.
kind of look at each other, and yeah, I was like, "What is that? What does that mean?"
I wasn't sure about that. I was trying to figure it out if her reflection was doing a different thing than herself because yeah, I noticed it in the breathing because I couldn't see her breathing as heavy as her character as the window reflection.
Yeah, it kind
I
of
was like,
made me feel like maybe there's a part of her that's being possessed. So like her real self is sort of losing grip with who she is,
yeah,
and you see like her actual self in the reflection, and there's like a slight difference now where it's like her herself presented to reality is kind of fading, or like maybe
yeah,
there's a mask to it. Who knows? I don't know what it's trying to say, but it
yeah,
just
yeah.
sort
Like
of
maybe
seems
well,
like she maybe herself, like her real self, is trapped somehow, because it
I
sort of
think it
just
might
seemed
be
like
like a
her
might be like a mental illness thing because there's
maybe
kind of there's because there's like this ongoing theme about people calling her crazy like ever since like the episode
it
where
could
the
be like
cops come.
schizophrenia or something, because
Yeah,
oftentimes with that disease you have sort of like two
disassociated personalities.
yeah, just
Yeah,
disassociating, that's a good way to put it, where
yeah,
it's like it feels like you have more than one personality.
yeah. Well,
And
and you can
it's
literally see shit that isn't there too, so you got to
yeah,
worry about that.
exactly. So it
So
could have just been, yeah, just like just to help with the feeling of unease and dissociation,
Yeah.
possibly, is why they're in there. But I thought that was kind of a cool detail to add
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
trippiness, I guess, of the situation.
Yeah, creepy old pastor man and like your double
Yeah.
reflection and then
So yeah.
and then there's a really another cool shot with her actually after that is because the bus driver calls the cops on her and
Yes.
she gets brought home by the friendliest cop in the show, I guess, where
Yeah. The
it's like I don't
sergeant.
know, yeah, he's okay.
He's still condescending as shit, but he's
Very,
not
very condescending.
abusive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's very, very, very condescending and definitely has a superiority complex over her. But the shot itself, she's sitting in the back seat and he's in the front seat, and I really don't know like how they achieved it
It was
exactly
really
because
cool.
it's like the camera is panning, but somehow keeps them both in equal portions of the screen where they both take
Yeah.
up 50%, but the camera is panning like kind of around them, but still keeping them, even
Yeah.
though it's like outside of the car and goes over what would be like part of a car, but it disappears and keeps showing them. And it's like, oh, that's, I'm like, oh, I wonder
It
how they
is
did that.
continuously panning too, because it kind of starts like very basic, where you do see the cop more in the foreground and she's in the
Hmm.
background, but then it continues to pan, and it's almost like they it almost looks like it's dissolving between them, but they have part of the vehicle or like the line of the window or something that's
Yeah.
separating them, and the way that it pans, it just like it's so seamless. It doesn't look like it's real, like it's sort
Yeah.
of comped in there somehow, but it's
Yeah.
so good. I don't know how they did it. It was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. They must have done some sort of comping where like, yeah, they inserted like her or something almost because yeah, it's so,
Yeah,
but they blended it so well where it's kind of like dreamlike.
so
It's all kind
good.
of blurry
Yeah,
around
it
and
is very dreamlike. It was really cool. But yeah,
because,
there's the cop does say, after kind of having this talk with her, he's like,
yeah.
your behavior is starting to paint a picture, is what he
Um,
says to her. And it was like,
yeah.
great.
Uh, yeah, yeah, and he's like, you want me to be on your side, right? Like that's it's like if you don't want me, if you make me take sides, you want me to be on your side, don't you? It's
Yeah.
something like that, and
Yeah, and I
uh,
wrote during this sequence that the cinematography was like sliding back and forth between like shadow cuts and intercutting frames, and the
mhm.
way that they framed Lucky oftentimes was sort of helping to make her feel trapped, because she was always enclosed in something,
Yes, yeah, she
whether
looked
it's
kind of
just
like
the framing or the back seat. It was always like she was very like close up, like her face was very much
yeah, yeah, and
closed off.
yes, definitely, she felt very confined and like just
Yeah.
super freaked out from what just happened to her, so she doesn't even really say much. Like the only thing she says is like, "I'm not crazy."
Yeah.
And then she
Yeah.
once the guy finally lets her out of the car after telling her that it's like, you just have to make them feel safe, like it's
Yes.
up to her to
It's
win
up
their
to her to
approval.
make the housewives feel safe.
Yeah,
It's like,
not like
what?
make them want to do terrible shit to you. It's like,
Like it's
oh
her problem. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, just because I moved into this neighborhood now I have to like just bend over backwards for these terrible people. And
Yeah.
yeah, she leaves the car and then goes inside and has a chat with her husband about the day, and she kind of like reveals to him that she thinks the house is like off and bad, and
Yeah.
that she essentially got attacked by a ghost. She told him, and like I think all she says to him is like, "You believe me, right? Like I need you to
Yeah.
tell me that." And I don't.
He
Is that what
doesn't
that?
say anything. And
Yeah, yeah,
she says too that there's something wrong with this place. Like
hmm,
basically essentially she wants to leave.
yeah,
And Henry is just kind of doesn't really believe her. I think he still has the mentality of like, we need to tough this out. Like I know it's
yeah,
hard, but we need to keep trying. Like you
yeah.
can tell he's really trying to have a positive attitude about this place, like really trying.
Yeah, yeah, and even I guess like just thinking about it now, it's like when she says it's like there's something wrong with this place, it might not even necessarily mean like necessarily like supernatural, just the fact that there's all these horrible people that are constantly
Yeah,
threatening
it's
their family.
everything.
Like it's
It's
not
not
just
yeah,
ghosts, it's also terrible
exactly.
racist white people that are just
Yeah.
like trapping their family and harassing them like on a daily basis.
Yeah. Just horrific things.
Yeah, it's like, oh. So yeah, they try to make that's essentially Lucky's story through the
That's her
episode.
story.
And I
Yeah.
guess at the beginning, Lucky sees a note from her husband and family saying that
Yeah,
he went
that's
out with
right.
the girls, and they kind of then cut to what they're doing, and they're having a grand old day,
Oh,
going
this
TV
was like
say shopping.
it wasn't necessarily the happiest. I mean, it is a happier episode, but it's still like in the grand scheme of things, it's like still it's still like there's some menacing qualities to the episode, but overall it was like a nice fresh
Yeah,
breath of
yeah.
air. 'Cause compared to the previous episodes, it's like this one feels happier than
Yeah, which I kind of understand now because of
it
what's
also
coming
oh,
up.
what's to come. Um,
Yeah,
because it also feels like this episode is a little bit of a in between episode, like it's trying to
yeah.
tie
It's
points together. So
setting stuff up. I think
yeah, this is
is the
very much
point of
a
this
setup
episode.
episode.
It's
Um,
establishing certain things. I don't want to exactly say what, but
yeah,
just
that's
knowing
fine.
what happens, it is definitely like the episode that kind of readies the ground for the final act, sort of like
Okay,
like
because
the
that's what it
first.
feels like.
Yeah,
This episode is very much cutting between character to character, um, and just like adding more
yeah.
depth to the
Yeah,
story.
it
So this,
pops around a lot, so
yeah,
we're just kind of like going over each character's story, but it transpires a lot differently in the show.
yeah, but this
But
hopefully makes it a little more clear. So yeah, we
yeah,
can cut to Henry's story now, where he's going TV shopping with the girls.
yeah, and it's like this happy time, and they're talking to the TV guy, and he's pretty nice. Has a few racist moments, or it's very cringy, and it's just
Uh,
like you. It just kind of like I don't know. The show's really good at establishing just how commonplace racism is and how it's just
super
completely a
commonplace.
part of their culture, and no matter where they go, even if someone's trying to treat them with respect, they can't help but be racist because it's ingrained in how they were
Yeah,
taught. It's just
like
they truly believe that these racist facts that are completely ridiculous, and
yeah,
if
it's
you
really
tell them to
weird.
anybody,
It's like
yeah,
because he says at one point, I bet you have 100 cousins that would love to come over and watch this on your new TV. And you can
yeah,
see Henry's face and the girl's face, like, what the hell? What does that even mean?
yeah.
And
Why would we have so many
why
cousins?
would why would you say that? And I remember, yeah, at the end when he buys the TV, he's like, here's a tip for you. I'm sure your 100 cousins would appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, that
Just
was great.
like
A little fuck
good.
you to him,
Like,
and then the
what the
guy's just like,
fuck was yeah. It's like, what the
"You
fuck was that
go
comment?
waddle off to your back room, you son of a bitch, smoking your
Yeah.
cigarette." It's like, so
And
yeah, they leave, and then they go to
there is
the.
also another part, sorry, in the TV
Oh,
place where
oh
Henry
yes,
he hallucinates like it because I don't think it was actually playing on the TV, but it cuts to him seeing
creepy.
blackface shows on the
Yeah,
TV, which
yeah.
still I think fairly commonplace back then.
Oh yes,
So it was
yes.
just the yeah.
There's like this
It
famous movie where like a white guy becomes a black guy, and that's the premise of the movie.
oh god.
It's
Yeah.
really bad.
And it's just so the way that it was filmed was very just
It looked
bad.
different. Yeah,
Aggressive.
yeah. It's like
Aggressive
he has
is
this
not a good
very
place.
creepy makeup on, and he's just staring at him. And
Yeah. So it's just that all in the back of his head and all those racist things that are around him during this
mm,
moment in time are always ever present. So that's just a moment where he
ever-present
himself was
racism.
yeah, he was kind of imagining that happening. I think probably after the comment, probably
Yeah.
is what triggered him to see that. But they get the TV, they're getting it delivered in 2 hours, which I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, such service. Um, and then they go and they go to a diner, right?
Yeah, yeah, they go
So
to
like,
like a soda shop, and
nice.
yeah, they get themselves some root beer floats, and
Yeah.
that lady's just seems to be nice to her. I didn't notice any racism.
No, it was
They just got to
more.
sit down at the front counter where they're like,
Yeah.
"Where do we sit?" Because the kids ask, "Where do we sit?" And he's like, right up in the front, and so it's nice.
Yeah,
It's nice that nothing like no one moved away from them or anything. Like they
exactly.
actually just got
I think
treated like customers.
that was just sort of showing that they're like what they're used to is just so different.
Yeah,
Um, not
it kind
being
of
able to sit up front.
yeah, it does show that like even though all of these terrible things are currently happening to them, it is still better than where they came from, because where they came
That's
from
true.
is like mountain, you know, hundreds of times worse, because anybody could just kill them at any time pretty much essentially down there. So it's like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah,
people are shitty to us, but they're not shooting at us or trying to hang us from trees, so I guess that's something. Like,
right. 'Cause it's the Jim Crow South
yeah,
laws
yeah,
back
like,
then where it was like you can't go into a soda shop, you can't do anything unless it's like specifically for
yeah.
like
Well,
colored
I'll
people.
just say a future show that we may be watching on this casual time
Casual
may
creeps.
yeah, maybe Lovecraft County, which also is
Oh
a
yeah.
amazing show, which has horror, but is also very topical of like racism in the 50s in the South, because it's strung into the show because Lovecraft is a very famous racist. So
Yeah.
it's actually like I think like a an African American woman wrote this book called Lovecraft County, and it's about Lovecraft stuff mixed with racism in the South in like the 40s and
Okay.
50s, and so
That's
it's a really
cool.
interesting combination. And yeah, they get into how bad it is. It's like there was counties down there where if you were an African American person driving after night, they could just capture the cops could just run you down and lynch you. Like that was just a
What the
thing.
fuck?
You need to get out of this county by nightfall, but the cops following them the whole time and says you cannot speed. If you speed, I will pull you over and then I'll arrest you and kill you, essentially. So they have to drive
Holy
the
shit.
speed limit while trying to get to the edge of the county while the sun is setting. And
Oh my god.
so yeah, that's what made me think. I'm like, well, it's not that bad, but it's
It's still
still not
pretty
great.
shitty, but
It's
it's
still,
you're not dying because you're speeding, I guess.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yay, silver lining.
It's like,
Shit.
God, it's like the people, white people were so terrible, and still they
Yes, I
are.
hate I yes. I
Makes me feel
have
so
much
ashamed.
much white guilt. Yeah.
Yes, I'm Dutch, so we were the Dutch were real big into the slavery stuff.
I'm gonna assume that I have there's actually a statue that was taken down with my last name on it because of he used to be a slave owner, and I'm like, what the fuck? Can I change my last name? Oh,
Somehow there is a world, a possibility that you are related to that person.
yeah, I just don't even.
Yeah, yeah. Just
It's
feel
great.
ashamed
It's
watching the show.
great.
Yeah, yeah. It just the show just like sends you on a shame spiral.
I know. It's like I don't know. It just like it's so conflicting. What do I do? How
It's
do
like,
I?
it's like I'm so sorry for these fictional characters. It's like,
How do
oh.
I? How do I make up for my shitty ancestors? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Just like, is there? It's like, what? It's like, can I say sorry to somebody? Just make them
Yeah.
a
Who do
nice
I?
gift basket or something.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
Anyway,
I'm just
yeah,
happy that I didn't, in my best of knowledge, I don't have any openly racist members of my family from at least two generations before me. So I'm at least happy
that
to
is
say,
good.
yeah, it's like didn't grow up with a bunch of
Yes.
horrible racists, so I'm happy about that.
My direct family is not racist at all. Yeah, it's just like my ancestors, I'm assuming
Yeah.
they had
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah. I just assume. Well, I'm not going to repeat it, but my dad grew up with a very different version of "Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe."
Oh god, I can only yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't need
yeah.
to say it. I can fill in the
Oh, I'm not
blanks.
going to. But
Good.
let's carry on with the show. They're
Yes.
having a great time with their sody pops, floats, and they don't really have too much of a story. Then they come home and oh yes, well they come home and the dad gets the TV and he decides to set up the antenna himself and he's up there doing his thing and then
Oh,
some
there's
of
a
the
part beforehand though. So when
oh
the
yes.
the, the TV gets delivered, remember
Hmm.
the delivery men, they're all colored people
Oh
and
yes,
they're just
yes.
like warning him that these
Oh
people
yeah, good
will
luck.
kill you. Good luck. Like
Yeah,
these people, yeah,
are
they're
insane.
dangerous is
Yeah,
basically what he's saying. And he like still Henry does not seem overly concerned by this. And as like viewers, you're just like, yeah, man, the fuck? There's so many people warning you about living in this neighborhood. You
I
should
know, like you.
maybe consider just leaving.
Well, and you
But
start to wonder as well, like Henry must have been told about these things before he bought the house.
yeah.
I
Well,
have to
especially if
imagine.
it had in the contract saying that you cannot sell to colored blood, basically.
Yes, yeah, yeah. The blood contract or whatever it was
It's
called.
really
Oof.
weird.
Yeah,
Creepy.
and
Yeah.
and they yeah, it's I think he's almost like trying to be woefully ignorant, trying to like just assume everything
Trying
will
to
be okay
prove
if he can power through it.
it's like he's trying to prove that he can can fight against all odds and basically just integrate into general society over here and is just trying to fight his way past all of this horrific racism
Yeah.
and just somehow integrate and it's not working
It's
like
not
you're
going
just
great. It's not going great so
you've
far.
chosen the worst neighborhood possible to try this out like at least go to somewhere a little bit less shitty, less
Yeah, you
racist.
have this like horrible like Nazi-esque woman living across the street from you. It's like
And you
just
are literally the only black family in this entire neighborhood. It's like, I don't know.
it's not
You
a great
don't seem
pioneering.
very accepting.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
It's just like, oh, it's just go. It's like, oh, good luck. Good luck. That's what everyone keeps telling
yeah.
them. Just good luck. That's all I can say. It's like,
Good luck with that.
all
But
right.
yeah, then he decides to start setting it up and he goes up onto his roof.
His roof, where his the husband of the little bastard that pissed on the sheet comes
The
over with his
husband of the little bastard, you mean the father?
yeah the husband. Oh, no, the husband.
Is the husband of the mother of the little bastard.
So they're very, very different there, you know, in breeding and young boy husbands, young
Yeah, it's a
boy
weird neighborhood.
brides. That's
Young
the
boy
type of neighborhood.
brides.
Young boy brides. That's the type of neighborhood it is. The husband of the young boy.
Oh. Anyways, we know what
Yeah,
you mean. It's just
the father of the little bastard. There we go. Right.
funny.
Lineage there. Yeah, so he comes over with his two buddies, and they throw a beer can at poor Henry while he's trying to set up his TV antenna on his roof, and his little girl's just playing, and the beer can falls beside her, and she's just kind of looking at him like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And you know, he tells her to get in the house, and they have a very tense standoff where they kind of order him to come down and he doesn't do it, and then he says they're like, do we have to come up there? And he's like, oh, if you come up here you're gonna come down a lot faster than you came up.
Yeah.
And
And it's funny too, because the guy is like, Your your wife beat my son or something like that.
oh yeah, yeah,
And Henry's
laid
like
hands.
laid hands on my son. And Henry's like, did she actually touch your son though? And the guy was like, no, but she scared him real good. And it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
little,
come on.
little pussy. It's just like gonna hit him so bad. Like you should hit your son, lay hands on him. Yeah, so they kind of right from the beginning are just you can kind of tell they're more bluster, more bark than bite, and they
Oh,
think
for sure.
because there's three of them that they can be intimidate him, and he is very much not intimidated. He's also holding a hammer, so
Yeah,
it's like I would put my money on Henry in this situation because
me
Henry's
too. And
real pissed off.
they did that same thing too, where it's like the seeing red type of a situation
Yeah,
coming from Henry's perspective. Not that things turn red, but you can see his face is just
he's
filled
shaking.
with rage. He's shaking. It's like when you are so angry that you're hot-headed and
Yeah,
your
yeah,
vision starts to kind of get a little bit shaky and
yeah.
thing. It's like a tunnel vision kind of. He's getting that sort of rage just because of this incessant racism that keeps happening.
Yeah, he's
And
kind of reached
they
his
are
tipping point.
he started to reach his tipping point where you can tell it's like if they kept pushing him, he could have snapped like that
Oh
and just
yeah,
jumped
yeah.
down and beat the shit out of him. Like he was so close.
Yeah, well, that's what he says too. He's like, it's like if I come down, it'll be the same same story, but it'll just take a little longer. And
Yes,
uh,
yep.
and also, it's kind of where racism works in his advantage, where the guy literally thinks that he has the strength of a gorilla. He's like, it's like they have the strength of a gorilla. It's like, the fuck, like, why would he have the strength of a gorilla compared to any other human being? Like, he's just a
So
person,
stupid.
and so they're terrified of him essentially. And he says they keep ordering to come down. He just tells them, he's like, just ask me to come down, just so that I'm 100% sure what you're asking for when I give it to you.
Yes.
And that's pretty much that breaks their backbone. They just kind of like pathetically say like, well, just stay away from my kid and I'll do something bad
Yeah.
if you do it again. It's like so empty and hollow of a threat at that point, and then they just kind of scuttle off. And
Yeah. And
yeah,
again,
that's
it's like you can see sort of um the way that the different husbands are acting towards Henry, like the
yeah.
one dude who's the father of the bastard bastard kid, um, is the most aggressive and he is the most racist, and then it
Yeah.
kind of falters as it goes back because there's three of them, and the second one is just kind of like standing
um
there, like kind of
he
like Midge is to Betsy is like the right
yeah,
hand man, and
yeah,
then there's Clark who is just kind of like begrudgingly there,
he
who is
doesn't
just
say
kind of
anything. Yeah.
he doesn't he's it seems like he kind of feels shitty, but he's just doing it, and
Yeah, well, because he is the
doesn't do
one.
anything
Well,
about it.
well, he actually has the only moment of humanity between the white guys, is he says, "Well, let him explain his side of the story," and then they're like,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
what side would he have? Like, why would he have a side to his story?" And so Clark is like, you can tell he's like,
Yeah.
God, he's just there because his fucking terrible bitch of a wife is
Yes.
constantly forcing him to do these things, and he's just
And
doing
his
it to shut her
neighbors.
up. Yeah, and
Yeah.
his neighbors, but definitely Betsy. She is just,
Definitely Betsy. Like, why the fuck are you with Betsy? You
she's
seem like a decent person for the
she's,
time.
yeah, yeah. For the time, yeah,
For
she's
the
an
time and the
awful,
location, 'cause
awful woman. So yeah, that's the end of that fun TV sequence. But then it's happy again because they're watching. They got TV dinners, and
yeah.
you get to see Henry actually happy and interacting with someone that he can
Yeah.
actually be a human being around, where he's like laughing on the phone with his cousin and like
That's right. Yeah, that
talking
was so
about how
nice to
they'll see
see.
each other. It's like, oh, this. I think that's the first time he actually is like
He's
gets to
relaxed.
be
He's
a
being
relaxed person.
himself.
Yeah, he actually is a
It's
happy
just like,
person when
yeah, he's a
racist
nice, happy
dickheads
person.
aren't constantly fucking with him.
Exactly. And it was really cute seeing him sit with his daughters and like of course
TV.
Gracie's the super cute one sitting there and the TV turns on. She's like clapping her hands
Yeah,
like, "Yeah,
and she
it's
does the
on."
she does the cute little kid thing of the dad says, "Don't touch it, it's hot," and she immediately
Oh,
tries to
yes!
touch it. I was like, "Oh, that's wonderful." That's like I
That was
did
such
that
a
as a
cute
kid.
moment, because then the sister is just Ruby is like, "He literally just said, 'Don't touch it.'" And I
Which
was
is like,
like,
yeah, which is like a perfect little moment between
"Perfect.
the sisters. Like, oh, they get to act like a normal family. Just that's exactly what
Super cute."
you'd get to do when you're not constantly being harassed by people.
Get to burn yourself on things because 'cause you're an idiot little child.
Right? Yeah, that's the stuff
I
you
think
need to be focused on.
I did that with the stove once when I was little. My mom's like, "Don't touch it, it's still hot," and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's hot! Why didn't you tell me?"
I feel like every child has done that, where it's like just to spite your
Don't
whatever
believe it.
your
Yeah.
parents said. It's like probably not hot.
They don't know what they're talking about. They've only been
They're
alive for like
stupid.
35 years,
Yeah.
and I've been alive for 7.
I think I
I
know
know
a little
better.
better than them. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know what's going on.
stupid.
So yeah, they have a happy little moment, and nothing terrible happens to the children pretty much the entire episode. They just get to live their day, and then
Yeah,
essentially they go to sleep because the mom doesn't get home until a little later because of her little bus incident. And
yeah.
I don't know if anything extra happens between Henry and to
No, I
Henry.
think that's it. The rest is, the housewives and the
Yes.
husbands.
Yes, the housewives, which is my only single note for the entire episode, which I wrote down, which was the I'm now noticing because I never noticed the first time watching it, but the trend of disgusting drinks that these housewives like consume throughout the day, and the scene
Oh,
just starts with Betsy just being like, "Oh, it's called a bullshot. It's vodka, beef stock, and Worcestershire sauce." And and it's in this like very ornate crystal glass, and they're all
yeah.
sitting around in their like dresses, and this gives it to this housewife who just starts drinking it, and she's like, "Ugh, of course it tastes like shit." Like,
Yeah, and it's
oh
funny because this sequence is sort of, it comes immediately after Lucky is having a really great time at that party. And
yeah,
so you see the contrast between the housewives and Lucky, and the two different communities where it's like, okay, there's this family, it's like everyone loves each other, it's a huge family, and they're all having a
yeah,
great time sitting around a table, drinking good liquor and like eating
yeah,
food, being jolly, having conversations, and then it cuts to Betsy being like, "It's called a bull shot,"
oh,
and then you see the housewife drink it down, and she's just like looks like she's about to vomit. It's so
yeah.
nasty.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I like it's
And it's sorry, yeah, it's funny that they've really paid attention to the diets and stuff of the housewives in this era because there's no
yes.
shortage of weird ass diets from that era, and being thin was just
That's
like
their job.
it was
It was
almost
part of their job almost as a
there was like
housewife.
this it's famous now, but it was sort of like this type of propaganda of these ads that would be put out of stuff that would keep you thin, and now we
Oh
know that
yeah.
the stuff they would do is like, 1, speed,
Yeah,
cocaine. It was
yeah,
like but it was sold as diet pills, and then another
yeah.
one was just like, "Just eat sugar, it's low in calories," and it's like, yeah, you could just eat sugar, but
Diabetes.
you would get sick from it, and also it's just like, it makes you hungry because
Yeah.
that's what sugar does,
Yeah. It
but
does
back
not
then they
fuel
didn't know
you.
that, and they would basically just starve themselves, like,
No,
that's generally what the diets were back then.
oh yeah, to trick your
So
body
bad.
into feeling full essentially is that. Well,
Like,
and they had like the
liquid
T-zone. The
and
doctor would prescribe you cigarettes. Like you gotta you
yes,
gotta
that's right, the
you gotta enhance your
cigarettes.
T-zone. Just
Oh
some
god,
make believe bullshit that kind of exists in your
it's
chest.
so weird, and, like, there's
Yeah.
grape diet, I remember, where you would just eat grapefruit and,
Oh
like,
yeah.
midge between the egg diet from last
So yeah,
episode.
I really I'm going to be following this throughout all the other episodes to see if there's an ongoing
See
trend
what
of
their weird diets
disgusting,
were.
yeah,
Yeah,
disgusting
there's no
food and
shortage.
drinks. Yeah, so that was great. And then Betsy goes and has this, and again, she is the only one that is passionate about like hating
Yeah,
the Emerys.
she
Like,
is passionate about it.
and everyone else just doesn't really care.
No, they
They
don't
really
care. Like,
don't. They want to talk about anything else but it, essentially.
even the mother of the kid, that peed on the
Yeah.
sheet, she was just she was kind of okay with it. Like,
He's just like,
her
well,
kid
she
was
didn't
being a
hit
little
him.
shit.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah,
we've given him
exactly.
the belt many times. Like, they talk about how much they've beaten their child. So
Holy
they know
shit.
he's a little bastard. So they're like, yeah, I believe that he would have pissed on her or done something shitty enough to have a woman chase him with a
To
stick,
warrant
essentially.
that. But Betts is just like, does
Yeah.
anyone forget that, she
She had a
she was
gun.
running around with a stick, and then last time she had a gun? Did people just forget about that? And it was just like, oh
She's
my
just
god.
she's
She's
smiling the whole time too, and I hate her face so much. Just
she's really she's trying to paint a picture of this false villain that this woman
yeah.
is, really, and really she's just a woman that's being pushed too far,
It's like,
and
yeah,
she's
and
not
they understand. It's like, oh,
doing anything.
it's like, okay, she just
Yeah.
chased him with a stick. It's like, okay, well, yeah, it's like their dog got their neck broken, so
Yeah.
that makes
It's like
sense that she probably waved her gun around thinking that we did it. So
no one stopped to think about why, or at least Betts has never stopped to
no,
think about why she's acting the way she is. She's placing those moments in a false reality of her just trying to attack people, when
yeah,
it's like, oh, there's no instigation towards it at all. She's just trying to hurt us for no reason. It's like, no, 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 no. There's
she's
many,
she,
many reasons why
yeah,
she's doing this
it
towards
was
you specifically.
yeah, it's like you fucking antagonize the shit out of her. Of course, she's just gonna direct it at you, you dickheads. Like, but she just sees all of her actions as so justified that she, yeah, doesn't understand why she would be upset because what she's doing is exactly what she thinks she has to do.
Yeah.
Just
And
messed up.
then I guess the next housewife and I don't know, the white community scene is when it's like an actual meeting of
Before that, we introduced the milkman.
oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about the
Yeah, the
milkman.
milkman, which he's a new character, which I will say he will come back. The milkman is
Okay, it was like that's a random dude.
yeah, I know, right? He's like, okay, they wouldn't just like introduce this for no reason, but you can kind of tell that Betsy maybe has a thing for the milkman,
Yes.
and
Oh,
that
how cliche.
it's so funny. It's like it sets it
Housewife
up.
and the milkman.
Oh, it's so when milkmen were a thing, which is so weird. Someone would deliver you your milk, like you still go grocery shopping. Why do you also need your
Yeah.
milk? Can you just buy it there? Did they not
I
sell
guess
milk at
it might have
grocery
been
stores?
like just from farms, who knows? Like the
Yeah, well,
farms
he
would
does.
deliver
Well,
it. I don't
and the
know.
milkman does talk about a farm and invites
Yes,
Midge
he
or Betsy
does.
to come up to the farm sometime, and that's where there's a little flirtation between the
It's
milkman and
like
her and the married
insinuated that he
woman.
wants he
Or
wants her to come, and he's like,
alone.
"Oh, so are you saying that a married woman should come on her own?" And he's like,
Yeah,
"No, no, no, I'm not saying that."
and then
And
she's like,
she's like,
oh.
"Yeah, right." And so she's like, "All right, well, I'll tell my husband Clark, and maybe one time
Yeah.
we'll pop by the farm." And he's like, "Yes, you are always welcome, and your husband,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course." Like,
yeah. So yeah, that'll be just keep that in your memory bucket.
put it in your memory pocket for
Yeah,
later.
and well, and then also going to what you were talking about at the when they go to the community center, he's also there as well,
Uh,
supporting her in the
okay.
crowd. He looks out to her after her moment, which you can describe if you like.
Oh yes, it was very enjoyable this moment. It's
Oh
like
God,
she
her
she actually reminds me
moment in the
of
racist sun.
I forget that character's name. If anyone has seen Midnight Mass, there's that one woman who gets very, you know who I'm talking about?
Oh
The
yeah,
like
yeah.
the
The preacher
very
lady.
religious
Yeah,
woman,
yeah. Oh
and
yeah. What's
she
her
ends
name?
up, yeah, I don't remember her name, but she is obviously like the villain antagonist
She's
of
definitely the
the
greatest villain of the
series,
show. Oh, she's awful.
but she has a speech like this where it's very um
She
Yeah,
just
let me
absolves
see.
herself of all of her sins, where she just like talks about how this is like what you're doing it for God, and the apostles of Jesus never questioned what he did.
And
So how could you
and it's very
question the new God?
yes,
Essentially,
exactly.
it's like this is, and she just like drinks the Kool-Aid immediately and is
She's
fully
like a
on
cult
board.
leader.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
she reminds me of a cult
yes,
leader, and that's what Betsy is reminding me of in this moment. So this meeting is like it's a basically a gathering,
yeah,
um,
community
to
thing.
to the meeting of the minds
Yeah,
of the community to to
minds,
try to brainstorm ideas on how to get the
racist
color
brainstorming.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what it seems like. So the
It
one
is. That's
husband
100% what it is. Well,
and the one
the one guy very much shouts it at the beginning. It's like they're like, "Why are we here?" And the one guy just, I'm not going to say what he says, but yeah, he very,
basically to get him out.
yeah,
And the main dude that goes up, I think he's the most racist one that is
yeah.
like
He
the
threw the
father of the
beer
stick
can at
kid.
Henry.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
father
no,
of
no,
the
no. He's
stick
not
kid.
the no. He's not the father of the
No?
stick kid. Stick kid father
Oh.
was the red shirt guy. This is middle guy.
Oh, the
He's
middle
like,
dude. Okay.
yeah, yeah,
The like middle ground guy is still
yeah,
racist, but not as racist. Okay.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they all look the same except for Clark. Like Clark is the one that he's like the most handsome one,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
other
like the
ones are
rest
just
look like
kind of balding,
shitty
balding
schlubs.
dudes.
Yeah, like
Shitty
just
schlubs.
shitty
They all look the
schlubs.
same. So his method that he's pitching is the slow and steady method, is to just kind of like slowly aggravate them
Gentle
to get
harassment.
gentle harassment, and you can tell that Betsy is not having any of this, and she stands up and she's
Well,
like,
and
"S-
Clark isn't even there because he was supposed to lead the whole thing, and he
oh,
doesn't even come to the whole thing. So he's just doesn't. He's like, fuck this.
he
I'm not
doesn't
going.
even go." And Bets just stands up and she's like, "May I say something?" And he's like, "Of course, of course." And she's like, "Is this okay with you guys? Like, slow and steady? Are you joking?"
Mm.
And she basically she has this whole speech about how basically the emeries are like black mold growing
Oh,
on the neighborhood, and if once you see it, you can't get rid of
it's
it. So
too
it's like you
late.
have to, it's too late. And she's like, all you housewives know how to handle mold, and basically once you see mold, it's too late. You can't get it out. So we cannot do slow and steady. Like we need to be super fast and aggressive to get rid of this problem, basically, as
Yeah.
she's describing it. And she just looks crazed as all hell as she's speaking, and the camera is right up to her face, and her eyes, like her beady little eyes, are just so
So
wide,
wide.
looking out,
And
and her eyes are super wide, but she has this creepy smile the whole time
she
as
looks like
she's
female Joker. She looks crazy.
oh my god.
And she
But
has the really disgusting part for me was when she's talking about her family lineage and how
that's
great
right.
her great grandfather was like helped found California and like drilled for oil, and she has like it really gives you a good look into her perspective and how warped it is from reality, because she says that like, you know, when back then like our fathers and forefathers were building the nation while they were just being nurse wives and working in the fields. Like they chose to be lazy and they chose those jobs, not that they were forced to do it because they were literal slaves and had no other choice. So she thinks that they're lazy compared to white people because white people built everything, but it's on the backs of slavery, you son of a bitch. And she's like not willing to acknowledge that at all. And she just has this fucked up version of what she thinks
Yeah,
reality is. And she's so justified in all the shit she says afterwards, which is just, ugh.
super fucked up. And again, nobody here even recognizes the fact that the Europeans stole the land from Native
Native
Americans.
Native
Like,
Americans don't get any love whatsoever. Like
so again, it's like, oh, it's like this country was founded by
white
white
people.
Europeans.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
like,
no, it was stolen by white Europeans, you son of a
one, yes,
bitch.
one, it was stolen by white people, and then two, we enslaved other races
Yeah.
to basically help us do our deed without having to
So
dirty our fingers.
we
That's
could just get rich and do jack
yeah,
shit while we just whipped and murdered and raped your culture, and that was it. Like, you son of a
fuck.
bitch! I can't believe it.
Like, great. So she has this horrific speech, and
Yes,
then
it's
they
awful.
she gets a standing ovation, and she's just standing there, like, just completely um,
I know,
justified
it's
in
perfect.
this. And
I always think of Mr. Burns where he says, "Let me bask in my own crapulence."
yes, that's her.
That's what she's
That's her.
doing.
She's
She's
Mr.
basking in
Burns
her
in that moment.
crapulence. She just loves
So,
it. She's like, I'm so proud of myself for being a racist,
uh,
evil asshole.
so that was that meeting, and yeah, and then after that, we see what the husbands decide to do.
The
I just
final shot of the episode, which,
yeah,
yeah, we can't even say, but they burn certain words into the Emery's front lawn with gasoline, and it shows just a top down bird's eye view of the entire lawn, and it's flaming. And then it's not really a song, it's kind of like a, I don't know, poetry almost. The end credits song. I don't know if you listened to the whole thing, but I actually made sure to stop that stupid next episode thing on Amazon and listen to the entire
yeah.
thing. And it's very
Oh,
interesting. It's not a song. It's just kind of like almost like slam poetry or something, and it's very empowering
okay.
song.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
didn't.
worth checking out. But it's they yeah, it's really good. They kind of I can't even describe it because there's a lot of racial slurs in the song, but it's really good.
Yeah, I remember turning down the volume because I'm like,
I,
I don't want
I heard
my
someone walking by my apartment where it was on. I was like, I immediately turned down the volume. So I'm like,
yeah.
oh, they're gonna think I'm
That's
a
why I
horrible
stopped watching this
racist.
show because there's so much racism in it, and they're keeping true to the times where they will say the actual words in it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so I'm just very concerned
I
how loud I
know.
play these shows, which I think is why I didn't hear some of it because I was like, I have to turn it down.
I
I don't
know.
want people to
At
think I'm
multiple parts,
racist.
like there was like someone who like walked by during the part when like they confront Henry on the roof, and they're like talking about his
Yeah,
gorilla strength, and it's like, oh god.
yeah, I
Like,
turned down that part too.
oh yeah, people are
Yeah.
gonna think I'm a
Anyways,
terrible person.
it's if you're worried about that, maybe watch it with headphones.
Hide your shame.
Hide it. I mean,
Yeah, so
I do
it's a
think
really
it is
great show.
important though. I think it's important to show like stuff
Just
like this where it's
how
like
bad they were treated. Like,
exactly because if
it
it's such a hard
it only
line.
helps our guilt to like tone it down, because obviously, it's like we feel bad just for us by association, and it's
Well, it's the thing where it's like if you water down certain things, it's like it's almost protecting white people.
yeah, it's
So it's like you
disrespectful
need,
to what happened.
and it's super disrespectful, yeah, to what happened. But it does make it really hard to watch and to face up to what happened. So,
Yeah,
and I think this show is doing a very good job of sh- of showing the reality of racism in those times while also creating a fictional story.
yeah, they do. And it's they run that fine line very well, and they just have enough sprinkling of the supernatural stuff that it kind of just keeps you off balance. But it generally, the main horror of the show is definitely the racism over the supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so
So
yeah,
that's that
another
episode.
fun, happy episode of them. It was
I like
probably the
feeling
lightest episode
okay. It's
somehow.
only downhill from here.
Yeah, if the next episode is the episode that I think it is, it's gonna go real downhill next episode. I think
Oh,
yeah, I thought it was gonna be this episode, but I think it's the next one. And yeah,
okay.
we'll just wait and see. We'll watch it and come back next week for another exciting episode of Casual
Oh,
Creeps.
excellent. All right. See you guys next week.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
All right. Podcast's over.